Kinchu here. Ember. Controlling the fire element, her blazing fury instills fear and panic into enemies in her way. Blasting through foes, she sets all flesh on fire and flares technology into pieces. Drawing energy from the void, accelerating her powers and making her enemies weak, lights the whole world on fire. To stand in her way is to stand against one of the fundamental elements, her rage, destined to swing the tide of battle. Ember is a very offensive frame that has a very active playstyle. Due to her being fragile, she always needs to be on the move to not go down. The lack of survivability, however, is more than compensated by the amounts of damage and crowd control she has. In this video, I'll show you the build I use for Ember that has very good power efficiency, very high damage multipliers, and allows for a change from meta weapons we currently see. This is Flaring Blaze Ember. Currently, there's not a lot of variation amongst Arcane Enhancements. There's ones that enhance survivability, more or less effectively, and the ones that provide extra damage. In this case, adding more survivability would be a good choice with Arcane Barrier. With Redirection, the shield pool takes a while to regenerate. However, getting a proc from an Arcane Enhancement and refilling it instantly will help in surviving in higher level missions. This build focuses on great efficiency, good range, and power strength. Energy Siphon for Aura for extra energy regeneration before the focus power can be used. Cunning Drift in the Exilus for higher power range that will provide more crowd control and in turn more survivability. Redirection for survivability, Stretch for higher power range, Transient Fortitude for power strength, Fleeting Expertise with Streamline for very high power efficiency, Primed Continuity to offset the negative duration, Flash Accelerant Augment that adds extra heat damage onto your weapons and increases power cast speed. Lastly, Firequake World on Fire Augment that provides additional crowd control by knocking enemies down. With great efficiency, good range, and power strength, you can crowd control a fairly large area and have a very high upkeep of all your powers. Flash Accelerant will add 77% extra heat damage to your weapons along with your mods, and multiply your heat damage done to enemies by almost 4 times. Following the theme of Ember, I picked Twin Basok for a melee weapon. Other weapons would work as well, but it's essential to mod for heat damage to utilize the massive accelerant multiplier you get. Primed Pressure Point for base damage. Condition Overload for extra damage per status, since enemies will be on fire pretty much all the time. This gives a flat 60% damage increase on top of everything. Drifting Contact for extra status and high combo timer. Molten Impact for heat damage. Virulent Scourge and Voltaic Strike for corrosive. Primed Fury for attack speed, and Primed Reach for high range. With Flash Accelerant's 77% extra heat damage bonus, this will bring Twin Basok's base damage to 430. With Condition Overload, that will jump to 690, and Accelerant will push that to 2600 base heat damage without combo multiplier. 100% status chance ensures frequent procs, continuously increasing your damage with Condition Overload. For focus straight, Zansari is the way to go. Leaving Void Pulse at base level ensures the lowest cooldown time possible to activate the passives. Void Pulse Mastery will reduce the cooldown by 1 minute, and Energy Overflow will give 4 energy regeneration per second, ensuring constant power upkeep during missions. The total amount of focus required for this setup is 800,000 points. the start of the mission, waiting for the Zenarix Energy Overflow passive, the 170 power efficiency paired up with Energy Siphon will allow you to use powers and keep enemies under crowd control until your focus power comes off cooldown. At that point, you can use powers more frequently and have much easier energy management. Using World on Fire is a great way to keep enemies under crowd control passively. However, that prevents any energy regeneration from mods and focus passives included. When you're out of energy, you have to rely on Accelerant's crowd control to stay alive while your energy is recovering. In about 10 seconds, you can recover enough energy passively to keep up World on Fire for almost a minute. Accelerant will shorten the amount of time you can keep the World on Fire active, but you don't need to use Accelerant very often since it covers a fairly large area and World on Fire provides a lot of crowd control. Finding the balance in energy management is the most important part. Flash Accelerant will provide extra heat damage on your weapons as well as a massive heat damage multiplier. It synergizes very well with the melee build. With 100% status chance, you can strip enemies off armor very quickly, which will allow for heat damage to become very effective, even against armored units. Generally, you should use Accelerant when enemies come out of crowd control and start attacking you. This will put them into stagger and multiply your damage greatly. Pairing it up with World on Fire, like I mentioned previously, means you don't need to use it all the time, only when you're fighting enemies which don't have the Accelerant's multiplier on them or come out of crowd control. Fire Blast is a decent ability to use in choke points for extra passive damage and crowd control. However, its high energy use cost makes it not worth using when you already have Accelerant and World on Fire active. There isn't much choice for alternative arcanes due to fragile nature of Ember. In higher level missions, you cannot afford to get hit, so damage increasing arcanes would not be an option. Ember has augments for her other abilities. Fireball Frenzy is a good augment to boost your teammates' damage individually. It provides more damage over a longer period of time, which in terms of utility makes it better than Flash Accelerant. Firefight Augment ensures a panic proc from enemies caught inside the Fire Blast radius. Considering that panic duration varies on enemies from 1 to 4 seconds, the crowd control increase is minimal. Although Ember has not received any changes for a very long time, it's still capable of doing endgame content and completing most mission types alone. Focus Energy Regeneration allows for constant power usage to keep enemies under crowd control at all times. Buffs for teammates, amplifying their damage, as well as providing casting speed is a good bonus as well. This is Flaring Blaze Ember.